In the deep silence of space, the moon Alyros 7 circled a blue gas giant like a quiet, forgotten stone. For years it had hosted a small human research base, a place where scientists studied strange minerals found under the icy crust. The base had no weapons, no soldiers. Only scanners, computers, and quiet minds focused on science. Then, one night cycle, the silence shattered. Without warning, the outpost's sensors picked up multiple energy spikes. Something, fast, huge, and unknown, entered the sky. The alarms screamed, lights flashed, and panic filled the halls. Before anyone could understand what was happening, the station was under attack. No distress signal reached Earth. Communications were jammed. Within minutes, the entire facility was in ruins, crushed, scorched, and buried under debris. But one human survived. Commander Jalen Rourke had been off-grid during the attack, performing a scan in a nearby tunnel. A powerful blast knocked him unconscious and buried him under ice and steel. Hours passed. He drifted between darkness and pain. When he woke up, the first thing he saw was not a human face, but a tall, silver-armored alien staring down at him. The alien was Xyrelian, an empire known for elegance, power, and pride. They were tall, with soft metallic skin, luminous eyes, and robes that shimmered with strange symbols. For decades, they had avoided war with humans, keeping a fragile peace. But the look in the soldier's eyes told Jalen everything had changed. He was not rescued, he was captured. Inside the cold, silent halls of the Xyrelian flagship, Jalen lay strapped to a glowing examination table. Machines scanned his body while whispering voices echoed around him in a language he didn't understand. He expected interrogation, maybe punishment. Instead, he was treated gently. Then the doors opened, and everything changed. A tall figure entered the room. She moved with the grace of a queen, dressed in robes of deep violet and gold. Her eyes glowed softly, and her crown was shaped like wings made of crystal. The guards around her bowed deeply and stepped aside. This was Empress Varea, ruler of the Xyrelian Empire. She had not appeared in public for years. Yet here she was, standing in front of a broken human soldier. She looked at Jalen. He looked back, confused and bruised, and then, to the shock of everyone in the room, she knelt. The silence was heavy. The guards froze. The royal attendants gasped. One even dropped a datapad. A Xyrelian monarch had not knelt to anyone in over 1,000 years. Jalen stared, unsure if he was dreaming. The Empress spoke in fluent Terran standard, her voice soft but clear. "You may not remember me, but I remember you." Jalen struggled to speak. "I don't understand." She looked into his eyes as if searching for something deep within. "You saved me," she said, "years ago. You crossed a dying wormhole to stop a great collapse, and in the moment between time and space, you pulled me back." Jalen's mind was blank. His heart raced. "I've never met you," he whispered. "That's not possible." But the Empress only smiled, her expression full of calm certainty. "Time is not always a straight road, Commander Rourke. In the fracture of that wormhole we met. You gave me life, and now, everything has changed." She stood again, slowly, like a queen rising after centuries of sleep. The Empress ordered his restraints removed and invited him to walk freely in her flagship. No guards followed him. No cells awaited him. Instead, he was given a comfortable room, warm food, and a small floating AI translator that introduced itself as Nilo. The AI explained where he was. On the Imperial flagship Zenthera, orbiting a classified location near the edge of the Xyrelian core worlds. "You are not a prisoner," Nilo told him in a cheerful tone. "You are an honored guest, though no one knows why." Jalen sat on the bed, still weak but alert. Why would the Empress kneel to a human? That's not normal, right? "Not normal at all," Nilo replied. "In fact, many ministers are upset, confused. Some are afraid. They say no outsider should ever cause a Xyrelian Empress to kneel." Jalen looked out the window. The stars were the same. Cold, distant, unblinking. I don't remember saving her. I barely remember the mission. What mission? Nilo asked. Jalen frowned, thinking back. There was a wormhole 5 years ago. My team was sent to disable a collapsing rift near the border. Something went wrong. I blacked out. When I returned, I was the only one left. No data, no memory. He looked at the AI. It was like time itself forgot what happened. Nilo blinked its lights. Maybe it didn't forget. Maybe it was waiting. Far away, in the throne chamber of the ship, Empress Varea stood before a massive star map. Her advisors stood around her, whispering in nervous voices. One of them, a high general, spoke sharply. This human must be a trick, Your Grace, a device of the Terrans, a trap. Another minister added, You knelt to him. That alone could fracture our rule. The people will not understand. Varea turned to them. Her voice was calm but firm. You are right. They do not understand. But one day, they will. She looked up at the stars, remembering a moment that had not yet come for anyone but her. In the heart of the storm, he chose to save a stranger. No flag, no order, no reward. That is the kind of strength the stars have not seen in ages. Ingtir touched a glowing part of the map, Earth's location. This is not the end of power. This is its rebirth. Commander Jalen Rourke sat alone in the private chamber given to him aboard the Zerelian flagship Zenthera. It was nothing like a human ship. The walls glowed with soft light. The floor was smooth and warm, almost like polished stone. Strange, plants floated in round glass orbs, spinning slowly in zero gravity. But it wasn't comfort that Jalen felt. It was confusion. Why had the Empress of an alien empire bowed before him? And why did she say he had saved her? During a mission he couldn't even remember. He stared out the tall window. Stars blinked gently across the darkness, unaware of the storm building in his heart. He touched his chest, feeling a small scar, a reminder of that long-forgotten mission to the collapsed wormhole. A soft humming sound pulled him from his thoughts. The small AI assistant Nilo hovered into the room, its spherical body glowing with tiny lights. Commander Rourke, you have a message, it said. From who? From the Empress. Jalen stood. His body still ached from the damage done on Olyros 7, but curiosity pushed him forward. Play it, he said. A shimmering blue image of Empress Varea appeared in the center of the room. Her expression was calm, almost warm. Jalen, I understand that this is difficult for you. Time is not a river. It is a sea, and sometimes we drift across parts we do not recognize. You may not remember what you did for me, but I remember clearly. You stepped into the heart of a dying wormhole and pulled me from the void. You chose to act without reason, without knowing who I was. That is why I trust you. There are those in my empire who will question me. Some already whisper of rebellion. But I will not take back my respect for you, not now, not ever. The message ended. Nilo remained silent, floating nearby. Jalen sat down slowly. Why don't I remember any of it? He muttered. Later, in a private tech chamber, Jalen asked Nilo to help him recover the logs from his armor. Data from 5 years ago, when he entered the wormhole. The recovery took time. Human tech and Zerelian systems didn't match perfectly, but Nilo found a way to translate the files. As the data loaded, flashes of memory returned. Jalen watched the video play across a large screen. He saw himself and 4 other Terran soldiers entering the wormhole aboard a scout ship. Their mission, stabilize the field and recover a lost Terran science probe. Suddenly everything went wrong. Energy readings spiked. Time twisted. One soldier screamed that he saw 2 versions of the eye. Same future. Another disappeared mid-sentence, erased like a chalk mark in rain. Then came the strange part. In the center of the footage, a glowing figure floated in the chaos. A female figure wrapped in violet light, her body phasing in and out. Jalen's voice played through the video. "Who are you?" "Are you real?" The figure didn't answer. Instead, she cried out for help, telepathically. It was a sound of fear and pain, felt directly inside the skull. Jalen ignored orders. He left the ship, using a tether line to reach her. The video glitched, the screen filled with bright light. Then, silence. The log ended. Jalen leaned back, breathing hard. "That was her," he said quietly. "That was the Empress." Nilo beeped. "You reached across collapsing time to save someone you didn't." "No." Jalen nodded slowly. "I didn't know what I was doing, I just couldn't let her die." Meanwhile, aboard the central command deck of the Zenthera, Empress Virea faced a different kind of problem. Her inner council was growing restless. One of her senior ministers, Cale Thorne, stood before her with hands behind his back. "Your Grace," he said carefully. "The people are confused. The generals are alarmed. Your act of kneeling has created waves." "I expected waves," Virea replied. "Sometimes the tide must be stirred." Kyle lowered his voice. "They fear you're placing too much trust in this human." Virea turned, her robe swirling like water. "I trust in what I saw, in what I felt. He risked everything for a stranger. That is not weakness. That is strength. But the human governments, do you think they will understand? They will try," she said, "or they will fail." Back in his quarters, Jalen received a surprise. A direct communication link from Earth had finally been established. The image on the screen showed Admiral Rika Sandoval, a strict, sharp-eyed officer of the Terran Union fleet. "Commander Rourke," she said sternly, "we received reports that you are alive, and that the Zerelian Empress herself spared you. Is this true?" "Yes, Admiral, I'm aboard her flagship." "She bowed to you?" Jalen hesitated. "Yes, but I don't know why exactly. She says I saved her during the wormhole mission." The Admiral raised an eyebrow. "You don't remember doing it?" "Not completely, but we recovered partial logs. It's strange, ma'am, like time was folded." She nodded. "We're monitoring the situation. But listen, Commander. Some on Earth think this is a trap. Be careful, and if you can, learn why she values you. The peace we have is fragile." The screen went dark. Jalen sat still for a long time. He wasn't just a survivor anymore. He was a mystery, both to himself and to the galaxy. That evening, the Empress invited Jalen to walk with her in the Sky Garden, a large chamber filled with glowing trees and floating lights. It was quiet, peaceful, unreal. She walked slowly, hands clasped behind her. "When you pulled me from that broken wormhole," she said softly, "I felt something. A connection. A choice made not for glory, but for compassion." Jalen said, "Nothing. Your people don't understand it, mine won't either, but I saw what's coming." She turned to him. "There is a force deeper than war or peace, a thread that ties certain souls together across galaxies. I believe you are one of those souls." Jalen looked into her eyes. "Then what do we do?" "We prepare," she said, "because others won't accept it, and they will come." The stars outside twinkled softly, but the peace between empires was already beginning to crack. The news of Empress Virea kneeling before a human had spread like fire across the Zerelian Empire. Every noble house, war general, and science council had heard the story, but not everyone believed it. Some thought it was a trick. Others thought it was weakness. And some, dangerous ones, saw it as their chance to take power. Inside a hidden fortress deep in the red clouds of the gas world Zeradon, a secret council met in darkness. A tall Shirelian noble dressed in black armor stood before a circle of glowing faces. His name was Lord Valzor, and he had once served Virea's father. "She has broken the ancient code," he said coldly. "An empress kneels only to the stars, not to a Terran, not to a myth." One voice asked, "What if the human truly saved her?" Valzor's eyes narrowed. "Even if he did, it means nothing. She is risking our empire for feelings." We are warriors. We do not bend for emotion. Another face in the circle added, the people are asking questions. Many are uneasy. If we act now, we can gain their support. Valzor raised his hand. Then we act. Let the stars judge her. And so, the rebellion began. Far from Zeradon, inside the royal chamber aboard the Zenthera, Empress Varea met again with Commander Jalen Rourke. She stood near a long table showing a 3D star map. Dozens of light dots marked key planets. Some were glowing red. Rebellion? Jalen asked, looking at the map. Yes, she said quietly. Several outer colonies have stopped responding. My scouts report military buildup. I believe someone is trying to remove me. Because of me? Not just you. Because of what I represent now. A leader who sees value in humanity. In unity. Not conquest. She sighed. And that frightens them. Jalen crossed his arms. So what's the plan? Varea turned toward him. We need someone they can't predict. Someone not bound by Zerelian politics. Someone they fear because they don't understand him. You mean me? Yes, she said. But not as a soldier. As a symbol. Jalen hesitated. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. You already are, she replied gently. You just don't know it yet. Later that day, Jalen trained in the ship's gravity chamber. His body was still healing, but his spirit was restless. Every punch, every movement helped him clear his mind. He wasn't just a survivor anymore. He was part of something bigger. Quiet beep came from the door. Nilo, the AI assistant, hovered in. Commander, someone has requested to speak with you. A human. Jalen frowned. Who? Your former squad mate, Lieutenant Mira Devons. Jalen's eyes widened. Mira had been part of the same wormhole mission years ago, the one he barely remembered. She's alive? Apparently, yes, Nilo said, and she's arriving shortly. The Empress approved her landing. Jalen's thoughts swirled. If Mira had survived too, maybe she remembered something he didn't. When Mira arrived, Jalen met her in the royal guest hall. She was tall, sharp-eyed, and moved like a trained soldier. Her uniform was scratched and worn, but her expression was focused. Jalen, she said, almost in disbelief. Mira, I thought you were gone. I thought the same about you. They shook hands firmly. He led her to a quiet corner of the chamber. Do you remember what happened in that wormhole? He asked. She looked around, then leaned in close. I remember you jumped after someone, a glowing figure. I told you it was a bad idea, but you didn't listen. Then there was a flash, and you were gone. Jalen nodded. That figure was the Empress. Mira's eyes narrowed. Wait, you're serious? She says I saved her, pulled her out of the collapse. Mira rubbed her temples. That explains a lot. The fleet told me we lost the whole team. No one believed me when I said you vanished after chasing a ghost. Jalen looked at her carefully. Why are you here now? Because your story has reached Earth, and not everyone back home is happy about it either. Jalen's shoulders tensed. You mean the Terran Union is worried about me being here? Very. Some think you've been brainwashed. Others fear the Empress is using you. Jalen laughed bitterly. Seems like everyone has a reason to be afraid of one human. She nodded. And if you don't act soon, you might lose control of your own story. Later, Empress Varea sat with her war council. The map now showed 3 colonies flashing red. One of them had declared independence. Valzor's name appeared in the intelligence reports. He was once loyal, said General Riven, but he speaks to old laws. He believes blood matters more than progress. Varea stood up. He fears change, and he's using fear to spread his power. One of the nobles asked, Then should we crush him now? No, she said. Not yet. I will give him a chance to speak first. Let the Empire see who listens to reason and who listens to war. That night, Jalen walked through the silent halls of the ship. The stars outside were peaceful, but inside he felt a storm growing. He met Varaya on a high balcony. She stood alone, watching the stars. "I spoke to Mira," he said. "She remembers what I did. At least part of it." Varaya nodded. "Good. Memory is a light in the dark." She also said Earth might not trust me either. "I expected that," the Empress said softly. "Humans are not so different from Xerelians. Both fear what they don't understand." Jalen leaned on the railing beside her. "If this goes badly, you could lose your throne." She looked at him, not with fear, but strength. "If I must lose it to do what is right, then so be it." There was silence between them, not awkward, just full of meaning. Then Varaya added, "Would you stand with me if things fall apart?" Jalen looked at the stars, then at her. "I already did. Once. Even if I didn't remember it." She smiled, and the wind of the great ship moved around them like a quiet breath before battle. The galaxy watched in silence as tensions between the Xerelian Empire and its rebelling colonies continued to grow. Ships moved, borders shifted, and messages carried threats hidden behind polite words. But in the heart of the storm, aboard the royal flagship Xanthera, Commander Jalen Rourke stood at a crossroads. He was not a king, not a noble, just a human soldier. But somehow both sides feared what he represented. Early morning aboard the Xanthera was always quiet. The great starship moved slowly through the Koran belt, a place where comets passed silently through clouds of ice and gas. It was beautiful and cold. Jalen stood in the observation deck, looking out over the stars. Lieutenant Mira Devons, his old squad mate, walked in with a steaming cup of tea in her hand. "You haven't slept," she said. "Didn't feel like it." Mira leaned on the railing next to him. "Everything okay?" Jalen shook his head. "The Empress wants me to speak at the upcoming peace summit." Mira raised an eyebrow. "You?" "She says I'm the bridge between two worlds. That maybe if I speak, people will listen." Mira sipped her tea. "And what do you say?" Jalen looked out at a passing comet, its tail glowing faintly. "I'm a soldier, not a speaker. I don't even remember saving her. I don't know if I'm worthy of this." Mira gave a small smile. "Maybe you're not, but maybe that's the point. You didn't do it for power. You just did what was right. That's what scares them." Elsewhere, in the grand hall of the Empire's Inner Council, Empress Varaya prepared for the most important meeting of her life. The council table was made of living stone that pulsed faintly with energy. Around it sat her most trusted generals, scholars, and advisors. But behind their calm faces, worry hid like a shadow. "Lord Valzor has claimed 3 systems," said General Riven. "He now commands over 100 warships. He demands you step down," added Lady Sarah, a diplomatic voice among the council, "and that the human be surrendered." Varaya stood tall, her long cloak flowing behind her like starlight. "I will not surrender a man who saved my life." There was silence. Then she added, "He is not just a human. He is a reminder that we can be more than conquerors. That courage and honor cross the boundaries of species." General Riven asked, "Then what is our move, Empress?" "We give peace one last chance," she said. "We hold the summit at Lenora Station, and we let Jalen speak." 2 days later, the great summit began at Lenora, a neutral space station, floating between Terran and Xerelian borders. The station shimmered like a silver moon against the dark sky. Delegates arrived from all sides: Terran Union officials, Xerelian nobles, representatives of rebelling colonies, and even silent watchers from the distant Raytheon alliance, and in the center of it all stood Commander Jalen Rourke. He wore no armor. Just a simple black jacket with the Terran crest on one side and the Xerelian sigil on the other, a gift from Empress Varaya. As he walked into the central chamber, whispers followed him like a tide. "Is that the one the Empress bowed to? That's the human? Why him?" He stood before the crowd. 100 eyes stared. 100 voices waited. He cleared his throat. "My name is Jalen Rourke," he began, his voice steady but calm. I'm not a hero, I'm not royalty. I was just a soldier on a mission to stop a wormhole from destroying lives. He looked toward Varaya, who gave him a nod. I didn't know who I was saving. I didn't know it was an empress. I just saw someone in danger and made a choice. He paused. And now, because of that choice, I stand here. Not because I asked for it, but because the galaxy needs a reminder that courage doesn't wear crowns. Some in the crowd shifted. Others leaned forward. Jalen continued. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to think. What kind of future are we building? One where we fear each other forever, or one where we stop and say, maybe we're not that different after all? He looked around. I've seen war. I've lost friends. I don't want to be remembered for what I destroyed. I want to be remembered for what I protected. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, someone clapped. And another. And soon, the room echoed with soft applause. But not everyone was pleased. In the shadows above the summit chamber, a small figure watched through a hidden camera. He pressed a button on his wrist communicator. Valzor, he whispered. He speaks well. The people are listening. A voice crackled back, cold and sharp. Then silence him. Later that night, as Jalen returned to his quarters aboard Zenthera, he passed by the garden deck. The lights were dim. The air smelled like alien flowers. Suddenly, a flash of light. A figure in dark armor lunged at him from the shadows. Jalen reacted fast. Years of training took over. He blocked the blade, twisted his body, and grabbed the attacker's arm. The assassin hissed, trying to pull free. They struggled, fast, silent. Jalen slammed the attacker against the wall and pulled off the mask. A young Cerelian soldier, barely more than a boy. Who sent you? Jalen demanded. The attacker spat. You will not weaken us. You will not change us. Before Jalen could say more, the boy pressed something on his suit and vanished in a flash of teleport light. Alarms rang out seconds later. Guards rushed in, but the attacker was gone. Later, Varaya stood with Jalen in the medical wing. A small cut on his cheek had been treated. This is only the beginning, she said. Valzor is trying to scare you. Jalen looked at her, his voice firm. I'm not scared. I'm angry. She met his eyes. Then fight. Not with violence, but with truth. He nodded. Together, they stepped out into the hallway. Two figures from different worlds, now bound by something stronger than war, and as stars passed beyond the windows, the galaxy held its breath, because something was changing. The attack on Jalen Rourke spread through the galaxy in every broadcast. Some called it a failed assassination. Others said it was a warning, but most agreed on one thing. Jalen was no ordinary man anymore. His face was now known in every corner of the Cerelian Empire and the Terran Union. He was no longer just a soldier. He was the symbol of a choice. Peace. Or war. Inside her private chamber aboard Zenthara, Empress Varaya stood by the large window, watching a spiral galaxy in the distance. Her mind was heavy. General Riven entered quietly. Your Highness, he said. Our patrols traced the attacker's energy signature. It led to the outer system of Taraxis. Taraxis, Varaya repeated. That system has been quiet for years. Until now, Riven said. And more concerning, Lord Valzor's fleet is gathering near it. Varaya turned slowly. Then that's where we must go. Riven hesitated. It's dangerous. Valzor will expect us. Good, she replied. Let him expect, let him see I don't run from traitors. Meanwhile, Jalen stood in the ship's training chamber with Lieutenant Mira Devons going through combat drills. His movements were sharper, more focused than before. He was no longer just recovering, he was preparing. You're moving like your old self again, Mira said, blocking his punch. Better than before, Jalen replied. Everything feels clear now, like I've finally accepted who I've become. Mira lowered her guard. Are you ready for what's next? Jalen looked at her seriously. I have to be. If I don't stand strong, this whole thing falls apart. Voice echoed from the wall speakers. Commander Rourke, report to the Empress's hall immediately. Jalen grabbed a towel. Here we go. In the Empress's command hall, the lights were dim and the room was filled with holographic maps. Virea stood at the center, her eyes on a blinking red mark on the map. Tyraxis. We're moving, she said without turning. We can't wait anymore, Jalen stepped forward. You're going to face Valzor? Yes, but I want to speak first, one final chance before war. And me? You will be at my side. When they see you there, it will show them I'm not afraid, that humans and Xerelians stand together. Jalen nodded. Then let's end this. 2 days later, the Empress's fleet arrived at Tyraxis. From in the sky above the planet was dark with storm clouds and rebel ships. Valzor's forces had already surrounded the main city. From orbit, Jalen could see large war cruisers shaped like black knives floating above the surface. The royal ships in Thera moved forward carefully, shield raised, weapons silent. They were not here to attack yet. Inside the royal meeting room, Virea stood in front of a long table with her closest advisors. Jalen stood beside her, his hand resting on the side of his belt, just in case. A call came in. Valzor appeared on the central screen wearing his war armor. His eyes were cold, his face full of pride. You came, he said. I almost thought you'd hide behind your human. Virea didn't flinch. We came for peace, Valzor. Stand down before this becomes a war no one wins. Valzor laughed. You already lost, Virea. When you bowed to that Terran, you lost the respect of your people. I bowed to someone who saved my life, she replied. And in doing so, I showed the galaxy what respect truly means. Valzor's voice became hard. Then you are no longer fit to lead. The screen went black. An alarm began to blare. Shields up, shouted the officer. Valzor's fleet is charging weapons. Jalen looked at Virea. No more talking? She shook her head. Prepare for battle. The battle over Tyraxis began with thunder and fire. Valzor's warships fired first, sending blue plasma blasts towards Anthara. The Empress's fleet responded quickly, weaving between asteroids and clouds, returning fire with precision. Jalen stood on the command deck, helping direct defenses while Virea worked closely with her admirals. We need to break his front line, she said. If we can get close, I can try to reach him again. Mira's voice came through the speaker. Commander Rourke, Valzor's flagship is exposed. We can board it. Jalen looked at Virea. She nodded. Go. Talk to him if you can. Fight him if you must. He took a deep breath. Understood. Jalen, Mira, and a small strike team boarded a fast shuttle and darted through the enemy lines. Laser fire danced around them, but their pilot was skilled. They landed with a hard thud on the hull of Valzor's main ship. Inside, the halls were dark and full of steam. Enemy soldiers rushed in, but Jalen's team moved fast, disabling them with stun weapons. Finally, they reached the command chamber. Valzor stood waiting, tall and proud in black armor. So the Terran comes to finish it himself, he said, drawing his energy blade. I came to talk, Jalen replied, slowly raising his hands. There's still time. Valzor growled. You speak of peace, but your presence is war. You've infected the Empress's mind, made her weak. Jalen stepped closer. No, she's stronger than ever. And if you can't see that, then maybe you were never worthy to lead. Valzor roared and charged. Their blades clashed in a storm of sparks. Jalen fought with focus and skill. He didn't fight for power. He fought for peace. Valzor was strong, but Jalen was faster and determined. With a sudden twist, Jalen disarmed him and held his blade at the rebel's throat. End this, he said. Please. Valzor looked into his eyes, and for a moment, he hesitated. Then he smiled coldly. Never. He reached for a hidden device on his belt. Jalen saw the glow, a self-destruct trigger. No, Jalen shouted, but it was too late. The ship began to rumble. Back to the shuttle. Mira shouted. They ran. The explosion ripped through the ship as Jalen's team escaped in time. Back on Xanthera, Virea stood silently as the report came in. Valzor is dead, the officer said. His fleet is scattering. Virea closed her eyes for a moment, then whispered, It's over. When Jalen returned, bruised but alive, she met him at the landing bay. You did what I couldn't, she said softly. You faced him, and you gave him a choice. Jalen shook his head. He made his decision. But you gave him the chance, she said. And that is what makes you different. They stood together as the fires of rebellion faded behind them, and across the stars the galaxy began to change. The galaxy was quiet but tense after the fall of Valzor. The rebellion had lost its leader, but many colonies still felt angry and afraid. Peace was fragile, like a thin thread stretched over a deep canyon. Back aboard the Zenthera, Empress Virea called a meeting with her closest allies. The council room was filled with voices, some hopeful, some doubtful. We need a plan to bring these systems back, Virea said, her voice steady. War is over, but trust is not. Lieutenant Mira Devon spoke up. The colonies feel abandoned. They want proof that the Empire has changed. Jalen nodded. I've talked to some leaders. They don't want more soldiers. They want help. Rebuilding. A scholar, Dr. Kalin, added, if we can offer aid and respect, we can heal. If not, more will rise against us. Virea looked at Jalen. You saved my life and changed my view. Now can you help change theirs? Jalen swallowed. I'll do my best. Over the next days, the Zenthera traveled to several rebel systems. Where once the starports were empty and silent, now they saw people working to rebuild homes, markets, and schools. Jalen walked among the crowds. He spoke with farmers, engineers, and children. Many were wary, but some smiled when they recognized him. In one town, a young girl ran up to him. Are you the warrior who saved the Empress? She asked, eyes wide. Jalen smiled gently. I'm just a man who tried to do what was right. The girl nodded. We want peace too, but not all were ready to forgive. At a council meeting on Zalara Prime, a colony world, leaders argued. One man, General Harkin, was angry. We cannot trust the Empire. They took our resources and left us to starve. Another, Lady Senna, disagreed. We have a chance to build something new. We should try. Jalen spoke calmly. I understand your pain, but fighting will only cause more suffering. Let us work together. The room grew quiet. Senna looked at Jalen. If you truly want peace, prove it. Help us rebuild our schools and hospitals. Jalen nodded. Consider it done.
Meanwhile, back on Zenthara, Empress Virea received a message from the Terran Union Council. They had watched the events closely and were ready to open talks for a formal alliance. This is a chance for all of us, Virea said. A chance.
To unite humans and Zerelians. Jalen looked at her. It won't be easy. Old wounds run deep. But we must try, she said. For the future. One evening, Jalen and Mira stood on the observation deck looking out at the stars. Mira asked, Do you think this peace will last? Jalen sighed. I don't know, but I believe in people, in their ability to change. She smiled. You've changed a lot, too. He looked at her. Maybe, or maybe I just found what I was always meant to be. They stood in silence, watching as distant suns burned bright in the dark. Suddenly, alarms sounded. The ship's captain rushed in. Commander, we've detected unknown ships approaching. Fast. Jalen's heart beat faster. Enemy or friend? Unknown. No identification. Virea entered. Prepare defenses. We may not be as safe as we think. The approaching ships revealed themselves to be a fleet of Raytheon vessels, observers who had stayed distant until now. Their leader, Commander Tal, contacted Zenthera. We come with a warning, Tal said. Other forces in the galaxy do not want peace. They prepare to strike. Virea asked, Who are they? Tal replied, A coalition of pirates, mercenaries, and some exiled warlords. They fear the new alliance will end their power. Jalen frowned. So, we must stand together. Not just for peace, but for survival. Virea nodded. Then we form a new alliance. Humans, Zerelians, and Raytheons united. Tal smiled. A strong beginning. Over the following weeks, the three groups worked together, sharing information, and technology. Training exercises combined the best tactics of all species. Trust slowly grew. Jalen found himself at the center of this new alliance. Human courage, Xerelian honor, and Raythian wisdom combined. He often remembered the day the Empress knelt before him. It had been a moment of respect and hope. Now, it was becoming a symbol of a new future. But peace was never easy. As the alliance grew stronger, shadows moved in the background. Unknown enemies planned in secret. Betrayal waited for the right moment. Jalen and Varaya knew their fight was far from over, but together, with allies old and new, they would face the coming storm. Because in a galaxy full of stars and darkness, sometimes the smallest light makes the biggest difference.